Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Leadership Lean In podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I think you're going to love this episode. Hey, I first want to say thank you so much for everybody that subscribed, writing comments. Hey, continue to write in questions. This next episode, I'm going to be answering some questions. So put down whatever you're going through as a leader, put some questions in, and right at the start of the next episode, we're going to answer some questions. But today, also, I'm going to get to the top 5 in a little bit, but today I'm thrilled because we have someone that's here today that is, I don't even know how to describe him because he's an author, he's a preacher, he's a filmmaker, and he's just a wonderful, wonderful person. Please put your hands together and welcome to the program. I can hear him in the background. Someone's on their couch and watching YouTube like this. Devon Franklin's in the house.
Oh, man, what's up, man?
Thank you so much for being
Thanks
here,
for
bro.
having me, man.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
This is so cool. We're right here in your backyard.
Man, look at this.
Where do you live from here?
West Hollywood. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
The missus and I live in West Hollywood, which is
go.
not that far, but you know, we don't get up this high. And so it's amazing to see the city.
It's beautiful.
It is. It's a clear day.
Yeah.
It's a clear day. So this is like, I'm like, man, I could sit here and chill all day.
I like that you said the missus and I, 7 years married.
7 years in June.
Where did you guys meet?
We met when I was an executive at Sony. We met in a general meeting, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, she came in. I knew her manager very well. And so her manager was like, oh, you got to meet with Megan. And so we met, talked about a few projects, but wasn't anything more than that. Very professional.
Right.
And then I made a film called Jumping the Broom. A romantic comedy, a marriage comedy. And Megan was one of the stars of that film. And so we started to have more of an in-depth friendship during the making of that film. And then the premiere party was about 9 months after the movie wrapped. And then that's when we started like saying, oh, maybe there's something here.
Yeah.
And then a couple months after that, started dating and got married the next year and been together ever since.
Wow.
Yeah.
So dating process was how long? How long did you guys date?
We dated for a little over a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great. And then
it was like, hey, let's go.
How did you propose? Tell me that story. Because I feel like a man like yourself who is so deliberate and intentional with everything he does, I can just assume that the proposal was good.
You know what? The proposal was honest. Let me put it that way.
Which is good.
Good.
The truth about men is it's good.
I mean, it wasn't anything elaborate.
Yeah.
But not at all. I mean, she was getting ready to go shoot a pilot in New York. And this was in March of 2012.
Wow.
And she was getting ready to go shoot a pilot. And literally, she was getting ready to fly out that day. And so I had just gotten the ring in a few days before she was going to leave. And so I was racking my brain trying to figure out, what am I going to do this? How am I going to do this?
Yeah.
And then a couple hours before she left, I was over her house and I was like, oh man, I guess I better do this now, and I was just nervous. And I mean, I didn't know. Oh my goodness. I think back and like, goodness, I was so embarrassed. I'm like, what? I mean, I could have done better than that. Anyway, literally.
But she said yes.
She said yes. I mean, literally in her room, I just, pulled out the ring. She was like, what are you doing? She was like totally not expecting it.
Yeah.
So I pulled out the ring and, said what I had to say and asked her to marry me. And she's like, started crying,
That's
the whole
amazing.
thing. And then literally it was a mad dash for her to get ready we had to get to the airport.
Right.
I had to take her to the airport. She was about to miss her flight.
Engaged in flying.
Truly. And she got there. And if she had not been engaged, had just not gotten engaged, they probably wouldn't let her on the flight.
Stop.
Because we were like cutting it that close. So they were like, she's like, no, he's got engaged. They were like, okay. All right.
Show me the ring.
They were like, oh, he did well.
That's not a fake. Okay.
There you go. Yeah. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. And then it took us a couple months to plan the wedding and we got married that same year.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on that. And I want to say congratulations on, everything. I want to jump into the books.
Okay. Great.
The truth about men, which I think is just such a needed
Thank you.
Subject, especially for culture today.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the genesis of that and when that idea started, coming to you going like, I need to speak on this.
Yeah.
And what did you discover as you were writing it going, most guys don't realize this is, because I feel like the book does a great job talking to both audiences, female and male.
Yes.
So tell me the whole process of that. I think
Sure.
it's so genius.
Yeah, it was interesting. A couple of years ago, I was at dinner. We go to church on Sabbath. So I was raised going to church on Sabbath. So after church, we'll have Sabbath dinner at my aunt's house. And so it's me and the family and a couple friends. We'll get together. And so this particular Sabbath dinner, we were talking, and I was just saying, my theory about men and our challenges and all that.
Wow.
And it started this conversation. And everybody had an opinion, and it was like, well, what are you saying? Da, da, da.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, this is interesting. I said, but I'm not going to do anything with this.
Yeah.
I said, writing a book about men and what we need to do better. I said, I'm not going to do that. So I put it to the side, didn't think about it again until I was promoting my third book, The Hollywood Commandments.
Yep.
And Maria Shriver was interviewing me.
Yep.
And after the interview, it was right around the time when the Harvey Weinstein scandal broke out. And she was asking me after the interview was over what my point of view was on all of that. And in that moment, I wasn't even conscious that I was going back to that dinner, but I just told her all the concepts that I was revealing years before. I was saying, here's what's going on with men.
Yeah.
Here's the problem. Here's the challenges. Here's what we should do about it.
Right.
And then she stopped me and she said, you have to write this book right now. Wow. I said, I'm not writing this book.
Yeah.
Are you crazy? I said, I'm not writing this book. She's like, no, you got to write this book right now. It's needed. Trust me.
Yeah.
So I said, thank you, Maria.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.
Yeah.
I love you dearly. I said, I'm not doing it.
Right.
So I left and I just couldn't get her voice out of my head. And the more that I thought about it, because I just released the Hollywood Commandments. I mean, literally the commandments came out in September and I was with Maria, I believe in October. And I'm like, yo, this is crazy. So I went home and I just said, okay, let me see. And I just sat down and I wrote about 5 pages. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I sent it to my book agent. I said, do you think anything's here? And my book agent said, listen, I don't know who wrote this, but I'm about to go sell it right now.
Wow.
And so what I was uncovering and what I talked about is that men don't know how to love because a lot of us don't love ourselves.
Wow.
So when we don't really love ourselves and we don't know how to love, it's hard to give love and receive love. And that's fundamentally the issue.
Yeah.
And then when I began to look at it, I said, well, what really gets in the way of love? Lust. And as I began to look at that, I also began to use the metaphor. So forever, we still don't know where it started, but there's this whole old age adage of are men dogs, and a lot of it has to do when people see our behavior, so on and so forth.
Right.
So I took that analogy and I said, well, no, we're not dogs. I said, but there's something in us that if we don't get control, it controls us.
Yeah.
So, and I used the analogy in this proposal, which ultimately became the book, that love is the master. Love is selfless. Love
Brilliant.
of ourself, love of God, love
Brilliant.
of the woman in our life. When we practice mastery, when we become masters at life, we're men that lead with love, that consider someone else's well-being before our own.
Wow.
So love is selfless. Lust is selfish. In the book, I describe lust as a selfish impulse for personal, professional, financial, or sexual fulfillment by any means necessary, even if those means are detrimental.
Jeez.
And I call that lust the dog. So lust is selfish. It wants what it wants, whenever it wants it, however it wants it. It wants pleasure without accountability or responsibility. And so as men, we're basically taught to feed the lust and starve the love. We're basically cultivated and raised in a culture that says it's okay to feed the dog within. Don't worry about the master. When you get married, don't worry, you'll learn how to love, which is just not true. Yeah. So one of the reasons why I like that analogy so much is when I began to look at the world and why we've seen so many challenges with men, it's because men have given themselves over to lust.
Wow.
And that's an oversimplification, but just in terms of understanding what we can do about it. Sure. So in the book, The Truth About Men, What Men and Women Need to Know, I wrote this book for a number of reasons. The number one reason was, in addition to being obedient to what I believe God wanted me to do, is I've seen so much pain in the eyes of women at the hands of us. Yep. How we as men sometimes operate as if we're the center of the universe. It's our way or no way. Just because we're this gender, we sometimes behave as if that means we're in control, we're in charge, and if you don't get with my program, then get out. Yep. And there have been so many men who've said one thing and done another, and many times, in my experience, women are left to pick up the pieces. And so because I've seen so much pain in the eyes of women, I said, I've got to do something as
Wow.
a man. And then also when you look at, our cultures of faith, I feel like this is an area where we are failing this generation.
Yeah.
We are not talking and telling the truth.
Mm.
The word says the truth will set us free.
Right.
That truth can be applied in many different instances, I believe. And what happens is that we can talk about, spiritual gifts and being saved, sanctified, filled with the Holy Ghost. Okay, all that's cool. Talk about what it means to be holy. Okay, all that's great. Has its place.
Yep.
But what happens is we are not preparing men and women to deal with the flesh.
Wow.
You're holy.
Yeah.
But what happens when you're horny?
There you go.
How do you deal with that?
Right.
And
Let's get real.
And then what happens is that we are all then just left to fend for ourselves.
Right.
And also in our cultures and communities of faith, we're suppressing. We're not talking.
Sure.
So you go to church. Oh, how God's good.
Praise God.
That's right. All the time. All the time. God's good. And the thing about it is all that's fine. And I'm not saying that's anything wrong, but what happens is people say, okay, I have to present when I come into a community of faith. I can't be who I am. And better yet, I can't express what I'm really going through.
Sure.
I'm struggling in this area. I don't know how to handle my urges.
And I don't know the consequences to me being honest.
There you go. There you go. That's the next step. Because then a lot of times in communities of faith, it's like, oh, if you're honest, well, we're going to sit you down.
You're out.
You're out.
Yep.
Sorry, you can't struggle.
Yep.
And if you do struggle, you better keep it quiet.
Yep.
So then
Right.
why are we seeing so many churches, so many leaders falling? It's not because those leaders are bad people.
No.
It's because we have a culture
Sure.
of suppression
Sure.
and denial.
I agree.
And until we start to be honest and say, hey, we all struggle. And until we start to talk about how we can deal with that struggle, we're going to continue to foster a culture of suppression.
Right.
Anything we suppress, we empower. Anything that we suppress, we empower to destroy us. We can't just say, oh, I don't.
That is
just
a
because
lie.
it's the truth.
Yeah.
We can't just say,
Powerful.
oh, I'm saved.
Yeah.
I don't have lust.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really?
Uh-huh. Right.
Oh, so you're not human.
Exactly. I mean, Paul even talks
Yeah.
about, Lord,
Yeah.
we wrestle between the spirit and the flesh, and the things I don't want to do, I do, and I don't know why. And Lord, take this thorn out of me. No, I'm not going to take it. My grace is sufficient for thee.
Right.
How do we live with the thorn?
Yeah, that's it. Because you have to. I remember a pastor telling me one time, he said a guy walked up to him. Is a guy that's an author on a book about purity. He said a guy walked up to him and said, Pastor, pray that God takes away my lust. He said, no, I will not. That's from that desire.
Yeah.
Is from God. You got to learn how to use it. You got to learn not to give to the wrong.
There you go. And
Right?
I talk about that in the book. We have to learn how to channel that energy.
That's it.
We have to learn how, because what happens is the culture says for men, here's the box. If you are a man, you're strong.
Yep.
You take charge. You have all the answers.
Right.
You make money.
Right.
You date many women. You have a lot of sex. You like sports. As men, none of us fit that box. But what happens as we as we grow in adolescence,
Sure.
if we exhibit something that doesn't fit the box, most of the time we're met with violence.
Yep.
Stop crying.
Wow.
Stop being a wimp. What's wrong with you? So what do we learn? Suppress.
Yep.
Don't talk. Do whatever we can to survive to fit the box. Because in the box, there's acceptance. But at what cost?
Jeez.
The cost of who we really are.
Yep.
And not only that, when we're suppressing, what do we turn to? Lust. Lust becomes the outlet to deal with the pressure of the box.
Wow.
And we live in a culture that profits off of us as men giving into lust. Everywhere we turn. If we could look at all the billboards down there, everywhere we turn.
Jeez.
So if there's no strategy to learn how to become a master,
Wow.
we're going to fail.
Yeah, sure.
Now, some will fail publicly, others will fail privately, but if there's no plan,
Yeah.
it leads us to
Wow.
fail. So I wanted to write this book. Again, I'm just one person, and I write this book not from a standpoint. I think that too often, yes, physically in church, the pulpit is elevated from the pew. Psychologically, a lot of people in the pew view those on the pulpit as on a different level.
Yep.
It's not true.
No.
So I wrote this book to level out the pulpit and the pew.
That's great.
To say, yeah, you may know me in the public, you may know me as a leader, but here's what I want you to know, that just because I'm a leader, I have not mastered this. I work on it every day.
Yeah.
I have a master in me. I have a dog in me. And if I don't realize that, then I'm going to fall. I will fall because if I sit here before you, I have all this figured out. Oh, really? Go ahead and go ahead and start your watch.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be able to see, okay, in a few minutes, I'm going to fall.
Yeah.
Why? Because I'm not being honest.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to write this book to say, here's how we can do it.
Yeah.
Here's how we learn to lead in love.
Yeah.
Here's how we manage our urges. Here's how we start talking more openly. I have a whole chapter in there about communication and relationships. Because a lot of times, especially when you're in marriage, sometimes you can find yourself in a relationship, you're the least honest with the person you're with.
Yeah.
You're more honest with people outside.
Wow.
And then we wonder why marriages are not working.
Right.
Because we're not talking.
Right.
And we got to be able to have hard conversations in love.
Wow.
But sometimes like, well, I don't want to start an argument.
Yeah.
So I'm going to hold on to my truth.
Yeah.
Well, the percentage of the truth that cannot be in the marriage is the percentage that is a liability for someone else to come in.
Jeez.
So if I can't be 100% in marriage, let's say I can only be 70% because my spouse can only accept that.
Yeah.
That 30% is a liability. Why? Because there's going to be somebody that's going to come up.
That's right.
You could inadvertently have a conversation.
Yeah.
And you're like, why that conversation feels so good?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't have any desire for anybody else.
Right.
But because I can't be fully truthful, we search for a place where we can just, I can just be accepted. I can just be truthful. And when we can't do that in a relationship, it's a detriment to the relationship. So there's a lot of stuff I put in the book.
Amazing.
For men, for women, for singles, for married folks, for people in relationships.
Yeah.
All with the goal of getting us to come together, not talk with one another, not talk at one another, talk with one another, and to begin to deal with this truth of how do we live in spirit and flesh and not allow the flesh to win.
It's beautiful.
But still be who God has called us to be.
Wow. It's amazing. When there's something about when a man gets really touched, moved by the Holy Spirit, starts to repent.
Yeah.
Like I'm as you're talking, I'm thinking about, Promise Keepers and that movement.
Sure.
In 1996, I'm a pastor's kid, but I really got saved.
Yeah.
Like saved at Promise Keepers.
Wow.
And so my life was very impacted by Bill McCartney and that ministry. Yep. And then I remember again another wave of Wild at Heart and that whole movement. And there's something about when guys start to get vulnerable and honest and just like, come on, man, we're all on a journey.
Yes.
Like let's get it out. And I love these thoughts and the tools that you've given people. I remember right after Maria gave you that idea. Yeah. She had this idea. I think she wanted to do like you and myself and Judah and a couple other people to do a panel about guys. She was really, after the Harvey Weinstein stuff, she was really worried about her boys and men in our culture. And I remember her, she's talking to Matt Lauer a lot in that time. And I remember her saying, I just talked to Devon and this book. And so now to see it out, I was like, I remember the dog and the whole thing. Yeah. So thank you for the diligence of that and the study and putting it out in culture. Every person needs to read this book, male or female.
That's right. That's right. Because a lot of times, especially for women, and why I wrote this book for women as well as men, is that I don't believe you can be successful with something you don't understand. And most women don't understand us.
Right.
They don't understand us. And I wanted to write this book so that they can have understanding. Why that's helpful for women, whether single or married. So let's say with the single woman. Yeah. This book now gives understanding for who they're dealing with. So they can understand, I'm dealing with the man who's leading with the dog. Right? Like, okay, got it.
Right. Now this is just a cheat code on life, by the way.
It is. It truly is. It truly is. I actually, this woman gave me a true testimony. That's what she called it. She said she was dating a guy. She read the book. Yep. It really inspired her. On the first date, the guy wanted to pray with her. She's like, oh man, the master. All right. She said by the third date, he wanted to go from praying to playing. Yeah. And she said, I see the dog. There you go.
Who let the dogs out?
Exactly. And she said before reading the book, she would have been upset. She'd have been offended. She'd have been mad. She said, but now that she had the information, she said, this is not a reflection on me. This is he's revealing what his intent is.
Where he's at.
So I'm going to move away from him.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do it with my, spirit intact.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it with my mind intact.
Wow.
And it's not a reflection on me. It's a reflection on him.
Jeez.
And she said, thank you for writing it because it has empowered me
Wow.
in my decision-making, especially relative to dating. So I thought that was awesome.
So great.
And so many other women have given me different testimonies. And for married women,
wow.
one of the things I put in there is I said, listen, I do. When you say I do, when a man says I do, it's not a magic wand. It doesn't put the dog to sleep.
No.
I wish that it did.
Right.
I wish I could tell you
Sure.
that when a man falls in love,
right,
all desire for all the things. And again, lust is more than just for women or sex. It's money, power, fame, success, all these different things. I wish that saying I do put it all to sleep. You have to worry about it. It's not true.
Right.
And so sometimes women, if they don't understand what's really going on inside of us, they'll take it personally.
Right.
Like, oh, well, I don't understand. Well, why do you feel this way? It's not personal. It's like, yo, this thing is in us. And one of the ways to manage it is to be able to be honest with the person you're in the marriage with.
Yep.
And this is why I have a whole chapter in this book called Create a Safe Space. We have to have safe spaces where we can talk.
Yeah, that's it.
It's a space where you don't judge what is said.
Right.
You use I statements. And it doesn't have to be a bunch of people. It could be one other person.
Yeah.
And ideally, your marriage should be a safe space if you're married.
Yeah.
I say for women, I say in this book, for men, we need to work on being honest. In a marriage, when a man chooses to be honest and he's working at it, he's being vulnerable, the worst thing that his wife can do is to make him feel less than in those moments when he's vulnerable.
Right.
Even if she may not know how to handle what he's saying.
Right.
Don't vilify him, because if you do, it may be the last time he decides to be honest.
He can be quiet for a long time.
Now, so I say in the book, you may hear, your husband may say some stuff, you don't know how to deal with it. I say, okay, just say, okay, listen.
Right.
Okay, baby, I'm gonna come back to you on this.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
You may have to go in the car and yell, whatever.
Sure,
it's
sure.
okay. But what we're working on is when there is that honesty and the transparency in the marriage, everything goes to another level. And so I wrote the book to give women information and also to give men a strategy.
It's so awesome. So this is cool because, you just put out the Hollywood Commandments, which is one of the coolest titles ever. I mean, you can't find a better title than that. So and then you work on this project. Go back for me and talk to me about the Hollywood Commandments, because I want to hear more about that. When I saw that title, I go, because we're right here as well, and you want it. This city's tricky. I'm from Seattle.
Yeah. Oh wow.
And so I'm still. I want to be a student of it, and I want to be a student of how do you really reach and impact this area. So talking about the process of that book and what you were trying to communicate there as well.
Yeah. So with the Hollywood Commandments, what inspired me was the story of Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And so when you go back to Daniel chapter 1, Babylon, has conquered Israel. And Nebuchadnezzar says, look, I want some interns from Israel.
Right.
And Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are chosen.
Yep.
And so as a part of the internship program, after 3 years, those that are the best will enter into the king's service. So they'll basically get a job. One of the requirements of the internship was to eat the king's diet. Right. Which was, meat and wine and so on and so forth. And so Daniel and the Hebrew boys said, we don't do that. Yep. And they first went to their, the immediate, the guard over them. And the guy was like, they went to their supervisor who had favor over them. And he was like, no, I'm not going to do that, because if this doesn't work out, it's going to fall on me. Yeah. And then they went to the guard that was over them and they said, listen, just give us 10 days to show you that we can eat the king's diet. We can eat our diet and be better than any other intern. He said, okay. So gave them the 10 days. They ate according to their diet, right? Fruit and water, nuts, so on and so forth. And they were superior. And so they were allowed to keep their diet until the end of the internship. Yeah. At the end of the internship, when they're brought before King Nebuchadnezzar, they were far superior than anyone else in the internship program. Right. And as a result, they were entered into the king's service. When you fast forward, you have the story of the furnace and the lion's den. What's interesting at all of those touch points, it ends in promotion. See, because we were raised in a culture that says, especially with Hollywood, whenever I told people as a kid I wanted to go into Hollywood, they'd be like, oh, you can't go. It's Sodom and Gomorrah. It's the devil's playground. And I would hear countless sermons, God's calling people out of that industry and all this kind of stuff. what's fascinating about Babylon was the most secular, culture
Sure.
on the planet at that time. And every time they honored him, Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego honored God, he didn't take them out. He promoted them further, higher, and deeper into a secular environment.
Wow.
And never once do you hear God condemn the fact that they're in that secular environment.
Right.
As a matter of fact, he's like,
Right.
I'm going to push you further in the secular
Wow.
environment and higher
Wow.
in the secular environment because you've honored me. So I just said, okay, maybe we have, listen, in our good intention of trying to create the line between the
Sure.
secular and the
Sure.
spiritual, maybe we've done people a disservice because we have basically demonized the secular in a way that I don't know is always scripturally consistent.
Sure.
So I wanted to write a book to say, listen, I've been in a secular environment for 20 years. I've been in Hollywood for 20 years. I started when I was 18 as an intern for Will Smith, and I've learned a lot of things. And so the Hollywood Commandments is a spiritual guide for secular success.
Wow.
It's about, okay, if you are a believer, here's how you can go into a secular environment and be successful while still maintaining your faith.
Great.
Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they didn't have to exchange their faith
Great.
for elevation and advancement.
Great.
As a matter of fact, they held on to their faith, but they did something else that is so critical that I see missing, especially in the younger generation of people of faith. The Bible says faith without works is dead. Again, it's one thing to have the faith part down.
Right.
But if you don't have the works, it's not going to work.
Right.
And I see so many people in this younger generation that want to pray their way into excellence.
Right. Right.
It doesn't work that
No.
way. I have a whole chapter in the book called Your Prayers Alone Are Not Enough. What I mean by that, I don't mean that prayer doesn't work. Of course, prayer works. But so often what I see in this younger generation of especially the younger generation of faith,
Yeah.
it's like, I'm going to pray, that God's going to do this. And I said, that's cool. But let's talk about your work. What are you really passionate about?
Yeah.
Are you studying to show yourself approved?
Right.
What time are you getting into work?
Right.
How are you handling your studies if you're in school?
Right.
Are you excellent at what you're doing in your work? Because you can pray all day long.
Yep.
But your laziness, your procrastination can cancel out your prayers. God may have said, yeah, your prayers answered is until you won't know it until you work for it.
Right.
So I wrote this book to show that here's how we do it. Here's how we specifically as people of faith can maintain
beautiful.
our faith.
It's beautiful.
And elevate.
Yeah.
By learning the power of service. I have a whole chapter called You Have to Carry a Crown Before You Wear One. Everybody wants the crown. No one wants, you got to serve.
Wow.
You got to serve. And I talk about, listen, I started as an intern for Will Smith.
Right.
I worked for him for 4 years. I worked for his manager for 2 years.
Great.
When I went to Sony Pictures as an executive, I was one of the executives that worked on his account.
Wow.
So I, served him, from everything from Pursuit of Happiness to Hancock to 7 Pounds to After Earth. Sorry, that didn't go so well.
Kind of trails off
There
a
you go.
bit.
Yeah,
And we worked out.
Karate Kid though.
It went like this. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
And then we did. So,
After Earth. Yeah. But be that as it may.
Right.
Before I could run my own company, I had to serve.
Sure.
Michael Linton, when I was at Sony, made a deal with T.D. Jakes to make movies. And so, I understood him. I understood his message.
Right.
I understood Hollywood. So I was there as the executive
Great.
for Sony, helping translate and serve him to get him started in the movie business.
Amazing.
So before I can go and say, hey, I'm going to have my own company in Franklin
Sure.
Entertainment, I had to put in, 18 years of service.
Sure.
And everybody now, they just want it fast.
Right.
I want it now. If it doesn't happen, oh my goodness, I'm a failure. I'm going to miss it. I'm going to quit. And I'm like, wait a minute. You gotta slow down.
That's it.
This whole Instagram, selfie, instant generation, instant gratification. Truthfully, anything you get that you didn't work for, you're going to lose it.
Yep.
It's going.
You don't know how to handle it.
You don't know how to. Not only do you not have the competency, because you don't actually have enough work in that area to know what to do with it. You don't have the character to handle it.
Yeah, that's it.
You don't have the integrity to handle it. Period. You don't have the perspective. You don't have the maturity.
Right.
And so I wrote this book as a way to say, here's how you do it.
That's so awesome.
Step by step. Here's how you do it.
One of my favorite scriptures is Psalm 78 when it says, and he chose David his servant and took him from the sheepfolds and brought him to shepherd Jacob his inheritance. It says, and when he got here, he shepherded Israel with the integrity of his heart and the skillfulness of his hands.
There it is.
Well, where did he get integrity?
Yep.
Where did he get such skill?
There you go.
In the sheepfolds.
There it is.
And so in one day, he went from sheep to millions. But you got to have your sheep. You got to have no lights, no camera, nothing.
And to that point about David, and I talk about this in the book, and it's something that I'm working on too. Because when I read it, I'm like, oh God, I don't know how. I mean, David, my goodness. So he's anointed king. And what's interesting is that he's anointed and then he's basically sent right back to the sheep. Right. You know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, wait, what? The oil fell on you, but okay, all right, get back, right? Okay. Never once do you hear David saying, when am I going to be king?
Like, what's once.
Up? The oil fell, whatever. Okay, I'm going to go back to serving. When he went to the battlefield to deliver, the rations for his brothers, he wasn't going thinking, oh, how am I going to go beat Goliath? No. Yeah. What prompted him to act? He was upset about this guy offending God and his people. Yeah. How can we allow this to happen? Yeah. It was his passion that ultimately activated and was a catalyst for his purpose. Never once did he say, God, why are you not delivering me in my throne? Nothing. It was never a pursuit of the promise. But we're in a culture now.
Oh man.
Where it's only a pursuit.
It's only a pursuit. That's it.
It's only a pursuit.
That's it.
I'm trying to go after this. I'm trying to get this done. I'm trying to do that. We've lost service. As people that follow the greatest service leader this world's ever known. Right. As Christians, we should be servicers.
I love that.
That's what we're here to do. We're supposed to service and serve. And that's one of the reasons I wrote this book, because I've been blessed with a lot of great experiences. I've worked with some of the most influential people in the world. I feel honored and blessed and humbled by that. But it's not just for me. Right. I wanted to write this book to share.
I love that.
Here's what I know at this juncture. I'm learning. Sure. Here's what I know right now. And I believe if anyone applies it, they will find similar success.
It's amazing. I want to talk about, again, you're an author, which these two books are unbelievable, like truly unbelievable. You're a filmmaker and have an incredible experience there. And then you're this fired up, fiery preacher. And I look at you and I think it's the coolest thing in the world. You break all the rules. Right. Because, just from a church standpoint, most people would say historically, choose, man. You need to choose. Yeah. Are you one or the other? Right. But how are you, and hearing the backdrop of, the Hollywood commandments helps me understand your mindset. Yeah. But talk to me about you, and what age were you? How did you discover I can do it all. In terms of, I don't have to limit the calling on my life. I don't have to. Most leaders are like, I've got to do business, or I've got to do ministry. This has been the traditional wrestle. Sure. Marketplace or ministry, movies or preacher, but you can't do both. Yeah. And I love you because I feel like you're breaking the mold of going like, you could be an entrepreneur and you can be a preacher. How do you, and answer this please as well. Do you ever feel the tension of like, one's winning, or is it just grace?
Yeah. So I'll answer the question by going back a little bit, because it was certainly something that was organic. So I knew I wanted to go to Hollywood, at a very early age. My father died when I was 9 years old. He died of a heart attack when he was 36. Yeah. And so he left, me and my brothers to be raised by my mother. And then my grandmother helped out, and my grandmother's 7 sisters. We didn't have enough money for therapy or anything like that. So it was basically movies and going to church and basically entertainment. Sure. I love television too. So watching entertainment, whether it was, A Different World or Rocky or Back to the Future, right? And going to church, that combination really helped me navigate the tragedy of losing my father. Yeah. So the same year my father died, my uncle started a church. He was a Seventh-day Adventist minister, and he started a church in Oakland, in East Oakland. Wow. An independent church. Great. So that same year, that my father died in February of 1998, and my uncle started the church in September of 98. And so that gave me a really positive outlet to kind of, explore my gifts and have something positive to put my energy in. Long story short, 15 years old, they were doing the second youth day, and they say to me, hey, you're going to speak. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, whatever, no big deal. Because I was pretty outspoken. I was involved in student government, so on and so forth. And Les Brown, who's a famous, motivational speaker, he had a book at that time called Live Your Dreams. And for that first sermon, man, I probably quoted more from that than from scripture.
And Les says.
pretty much. Anyway, so I preached, and it went really well. And everyone kept saying, oh, this is your gift. This is your calling. You got to go into ministry. Oh my goodness, you're amazing. I said, nope. I said, I'm going to Hollywood.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to hear it. And they would tell me, oh, you can run, but you can't hide. And I said, well, I'm running really fast because I don't want to do that.
Right.
And so 18 years old came around. I applied to USC, got into USC, came down to intern. Went to school, to do a business major and film minor, but then I also wanted to get an internship. And so in that internship interview, I put in my resume to become an intern at Will Smith's, the company that managed him. So I go in there, they call me in for an internship interview that freshman year. And we're talking, and they asked me why I want to be in entertainment. I said, I want to make change in the world because I believe entertainment is one of the most powerful mediums in the world. And they were like, oh, cool, great. And by the end of the interview, they said, is there anything else you want us to know? And in that moment, I told them, I said, well, listen, I observe the Sabbath. So if taking this internship would require me to work on the Sabbath, I'm not going to take it.
Wow.
And they were kind of like, oh, okay. Like, whoa, well, all right. They had never heard anything like that.
Right.
But they were like, all right, cool, no problem. No problem. So we will work around that.
Wow.
So I got the internship, did the internship in addition to my full-time class load. Did that for 4 years, observed the Sabbath the whole time. When I graduated, I became an assistant at Will's company for his producing partner. That same year that I graduated and took that job as an assistant working for Will's producing partner, my uncle from the church called. And he said, hey, I'm getting older. Can you come up once a month to preach for me? And I was like, man, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
This is not, but he had been so influential in my life.
Right.
I said, fine, I'll do it. So I just started doing it.
Wow.
Didn't think anything of it. I'd do it. Lo and behold, people at the office at Will's company started finding out. They started saying, well, hey, man, I hear you're a preacher. I'm like, how'd you find out I'm a preacher?
Yeah.
And so they started coming to me for Bible study. We would do Bible studies during lunch. They would come to me for prayer. Will would come in the office. Even to this day, he'll be like, hey, what's up, preacher? What's up, Rev?
Yeah.
So all of that just started to converge. And so I was like, oh, man, well, all right. Well, I guess I just keep going. And so as I kept going, I began to realize, oh, this is interesting. The preaching thing is not taking me away from movies. It's actually making me more distinct.
That's awesome.
Because I have a chapter in the Hollywood Commandments. Your difference is your destiny. What makes us different is ultimately what will take us on the path. It's hard.
Yep.
Because none of us like to be different.
Right.
We want to sand down the edges of our difference so that we can conform. Because it's more comfortable to conform. It's more painful to be different.
It's great.
But that difference, that pain, God uses to push us into purpose.
It's beautiful.
And so for me, I was like, okay, I guess I got to just keep doing this. And I didn't realize that in the industry where many people, morality sometimes can be optional, here I am saying, no, my faith is important to me and I am going to preach and I'm still going to pursue this. And that just, people began to know that. And so every job I took, going from intern to working for MGM to ultimately working for Sony, it was always something that I did.
Wow.
So it was never like, oh, I'm going to be over here, I'm going to be over there. But here was the one thing that was critical as the preaching started to evolve, as me going further in entertainment started to happen. I had to mentally understand how they fit together. And what I began to realize that, okay, I'm put on this earth to inspire.
Yeah.
I'm put on this earth to motivate and to bring hope. God will use different gifts within me to do that one objective.
Right.
So making movies is one way to do that. Preaching is one way. Authoring is one. Writing is one way. Being on social media is one way. But it's the same wheel.
Wow.
Different spokes.
I
same
love
wheel.
that.
If I hadn't understood mentally, I think it would be hard.
Sure.
But for me, I'm like, oh, got it. The intent is the same.
Yep.
when I'm working on a sermon, how is this going to move the person in the pew to think differently, to motivate them in a way they otherwise weren't motivated, to inform them in a way they otherwise may not have been informed, and then to begin to apply that knowledge in a way that's going to improve their life. When I'm making a movie, same thing.
Right.
Okay, the person that's coming in the theater, what's going to be their experience when they see this character on screen?
Wow.
What's going to be their experience when they watch this film? So it was the same thing when I'm writing a book. How's this person going to be moved, inspired, informed, so on and so I have the same thought process, even though I'm applying it to different mediums.
I love that.
And to your point about balance, there have been times, so I hate to be long-winded.
No, I love it. I love everything that you're saying, truly.
So there was a time where I got caught thinking of myself kind of in the executive box when I was an executive for Sony. And what began to happen is that certain things that I were expecting to happen in my career did not happen. And when those certain things like promotion at certain times and certain opportunities, I feel like I got overlooked. And when that began to happen, it was almost like a message from God, a hard lesson, which is if I allow some of these things to happen that you're wanting to happen, you're going to go in this direction at the expense of where I really want you to be. So I have to hold back some of this success, especially in the film part of it, so that you don't get so far down that road that you're never going to hear me. There's no coming back. So it's almost like, God is there and I'm the horse and it's the reins, just like trying to keep me on track so that wherever he wants me to, whatever he wants me to do, I can stay focused. Yeah. So what happened was I wrote my first book was Produced by Faith. I wrote that book. Basically, it was about, how you can be successful without losing your faith. And so I wrote it, and this agent called me about a movie thing. I didn't call the agent right back. Long story short, when I got the agent on the phone, she said, "You can't afford to call me back this late," because she was a very senior agent. Yeah, and I was like, "You're right. You're right." Yeah. So I was like, "Oh my goodness, what did I do?" So I sent her an apology gift. Which had some Sony products and my book, Produced by Faith. She calls me a little while later and she said, I read your book. I think it's amazing. I think you should be doing something with Oprah. I'm like, okay, fine. So she sends Oprah my book. She sends Oprah's agent my book. Eventually I end up meeting with Oprah. I have a, hour-long meeting with Oprah. It goes great. Right. She's like, I want you to come do Super Soul Sunday. I went and did Super Soul Sunday. And that began this relationship with Oprah. Now here's the point I'm making, which is this. Again, I'm thinking like, okay, I'm an executive that wrote a book. In my time with her, she basically said in so many words, like, I can't tell you who you are. You're going to have to go on a journey where you figure out who you are. But basically, like, if you only think of yourself as an executive, you're going to miss what God is doing. Jeez. And so that message was so strong that I said, okay, if I don't think of myself as an executive, then who am I? And there is where I think so many of us miss it. We don't think of ourselves as who we are. Wow. We think of ourselves as what we do. That's it. We find our identity in our title and how people know. Independent of a title, most of us sometimes don't even know who we are. Yeah. And so what God was saying is, you're not a title. You're divine. You're so divine. So great. You don't find your identity in what other people call you or what you even call yourself. Yeah. Because so you mean if you don't have that title, you don't have those gifts anymore? So if you no longer have the title of executive, does that mean you don't have that talent anymore? No, you still have the talent. You still have the gifts. That's it. So through the message from Oprah and so many other people, it's what got me to lean into just being who I am. Yeah. Okay, let me lean in. Let me be who I am, and let me apply who I am to different things. It's preaching, awesome. Writing, movies, whatever. Now, it is hard from the standpoint that I have to listen to him. Sure. About what's important in any given moment. Yep. What invitations should I accept? Which one should I not? What movie should I do? Which one should I not? Right. I have to consist because if each one individual is a full career. Right. You know what I mean? Like, and I get that. Exactly. I totally get it. And I know it's crazy. So for me, if I'm blending the three and whatever, it's just like, okay, God, you have to just show me how you want me to do it. Yeah. And I stay sensitive to the Spirit. It's awesome. That's a long answer. No, it's so good. But I hope everyone's really understanding what you're saying, because that is so liberating. You're not limited to what you do.
It's who you are.
Yes.
And for you to go on that journey, I'm grateful that you did, because I feel like you can now appropriately put your energy towards whatever comes your way. It could be bigger than these three right now.
And not even just for me. Yes, it could be bigger than these three. And so I'm open to whatever God wants.
Sure.
But for even someone watching or listening,
Yeah.
especially when you're talking about ministry leaders,
Yes.
and this is going to sound crazy. But don't let the title of pastor limit you.
Yeah. Right.
Don't.
Sure.
Don't. It doesn't. It's like there's so many things God wants to do.
Right.
Through leaders.
Yep.
Period.
Right.
But if you only think of yourself as, this, like you said, ministry or marketplace, well, where is that biblical?
Right.
It's not.
Right.
God is going to use people in ministry and marketplace. He's going to use people in the marketplace and ministry.
It's awesome.
Why not be open?
Yep.
The Bible says a man's or woman's gifts will make room for them.
Yep.
It's not gifts subject to title.
No.
Gifts.
Yeah. You're right.
So why not explore
It's awesome.
the gifts? But here's also a challenge and a caution.
Mm.
And it's easier for me to do what I'm getting ready to say do.
Yep.
Okay. Because I don't have a congregation that I'm responsible to. I'm a bootleg preacher. Okay.
I love it.
I'm a bootleg preacher.
I
You know
love
what I
it.
mean?
I
Hey,
love
I
it.
go from one place
And a
to
darn
the next.
good one.
Well, thank you. But here's the thing. And I know it's easier said than done. It is tempting to live life for other people. And as a leader, especially as a pastor, my younger brother's a pastor, my uncle's a pastor, I have so many pastor friends, to limit what God wants to do because of the uncertainty of how the congregation will respond.
Right.
So the temptation is the congregation then becomes God.
You preach it now.
And then God has to take a back seat.
Wow.
Because God is moving.
Sure.
God is moving through pastors with so many different ideas.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I want to do this and this, this, and they're great ideas. But then it's like, well, what are the church going to say?
They won't like it.
They're not going to like it?
Yeah.
I can't do it?
Yeah.
So, all right, well, if I'm not going to be accepted, then I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
Who are you? At the end of our lives, we got to answer to God. He's not going to say, oh, well, because the church. No, I want you to be obedient to me. So
awesome.
I would just challenge any minister, any leader to hear what God wants you to do.
Yeah.
And not put restrictions on yourself in doing it.
I love it so much. We're going to take a break right now. We're going to go to this month's top 5. We're going to go to top 5, and then we're coming right back here with Devon Franklin talking about time management right after this. But here's this month's top 5. Woo! I love it.
I say it too much.
No, there's so much truth. You are so articulate and so brilliant and so thought through, calculated. It's unbelievable.
Oh, thank you, my
And
brother.
it's such. I mean, most of these guys are pastors, so they're thinking, like in the context of the walls, teams, meeting, and so for you to come in and do that is just.
Amen.
I hope that we don't limit people.
Right.
What you just said, I thought of 4 guys right away. That's like, this is always their reply. The church, they'll never go for that. It's like, wait, what?
You know what? God, the people that are assigned to you are going to go for it.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be fine. There may be some that as you move with God, they're not moving with you. Okay, that's okay.
And it's probably 2 or 3 people we're talking about.
That's right.
It's not hundreds.
Come on. You just got to say, okay, here's the other thing. We walk by sight. Walk by faith, not by sight.
Yeah.
Walk by faith, not by sight. So I think God's leading here. I got to go find out.
Yeah, we have to. We have to be true to it.
Yeah. So
I love it. I'm very, for my wife and I, we feel very passionate. My wife was in real estate for, I forget how many years, but she owned 6 houses herself before we got married.
Wow.
So she's brought out that side for me of business and entrepreneurship. And if without her influence in my life, I don't know where I'd probably just be So she helped me see a bigger world.
I love it.
And I'm so grateful. We need people that can, she's one of those people like yourself that could do both so well, and it's help people like myself to go,
grow.
Oh, it's okay.
It's okay.
Okay, this month's top 5, talking about the kind of leader you want around you. The kind of leader you want around you. Now, it's so important that we all understand as leaders is that you don't necessarily have to have people around you that you don't want to have around you. You choose the kind of leaders that you want to have on your team. This is a great thought from David's mighty men. In 2 Samuel said that he had 30 guys that were his mighty men. And of the 30, there was three that were the close ones. And of course, you always have your one. So I'm gonna give you 5 things. And when you're choosing the kind of leader that you want around you, what does that look like? Write down number 1, everyone needs 3 and everyone needs 1. In other words, you need at least 3 people around you that are your trusted. God always works in 3s. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, Peter, James, and John. There's something about having 3 around you. I know we've talked about in culture top 5 or, T-Mobile used to have, top 8 or whatever. You got to have at least 3. I'm not going to make you have 8 or even 12 right now. Choose 3 people around you that can be counselors, that can be voices, that can be trusted people that you can bounce off information and have a voice into what you're building. And everyone needs one. Everybody needs that go-to, that one person. David had his 3, but he also had a friend named Jonathan, someone that's close, someone that's the closest. Make sure you don't just have 3, but you need one that you talk to the most. For a lot of people, this is your spouse. For me, this is my wife, Julia. You need one that this person's voice holds the most weight in your life. Number 2, they're leaning into suggestions, not living off of commandments. So this is their whole life. They want to lean in to what you have to say, and it's all lean in. It's not you have to tell them what to do all the time. It's my favorite story. David's sitting there and he's like, oh, that someone would go get if I just had a drink from these wells. And he goes to sleep, and of his three mighty men, they risk their life. They sneak down to this area. They get him the drink and they bring it back. Now, David was not being manipulative. He wasn't being passive aggressive. Oh, I just wish somebody would go get me a drink, what I wouldn't give for it. No, he just said it. And these guys went off suggestion, not off commandment. You have the wrong people around you if you have to spell it out and tell them exactly what to do. You have the right people around you if they go off of a suggestion, not a commandment. A suggestion really means they're leaning into your world, leaning into your words, and leaning into your culture. I know I've got the right people around me if I don't have to tell them what to do. If I have to always spell it out and micromanage, probably not the right people to have on the team. But if I just give a suggestion, then it's probably the right people that you want to have on your team. Write down number 3. When our backs are against the wall, they step up and lead. I love this. Now, of David's mighty men, there's a guy named Benaiah, and it says, literally in scripture, it says this. It says that he was in a pit with a lion on a snowy day, and he won. Just get a visual. In a pit with a lion on a snowy day. In other words, the reason why he's one of the 3 is because if David knew if he ever got into a pit, there was ever a lion, if it happened to be a snowy day, he could count on this type of leader. Are you the type of leader that when our backs are against the wall, you're not bailing, you're actually a courageous leader? You actually step up, take charge. Usually what will happen is if you're in the back of the organization at like 30th, but we get into a pit with a lion on a snowy day, if you can step up and be courageous, all of a sudden that will elevate you from like 30th to 3rd, because you have proven yourself your weight in gold. Make sure that you understand it's not the sunny days that count as leaders. It's when things get hard. It's when our backs are against the wall. It's when something's not growing. It's when everything's not so fun for a while. Those are the type of leaders I want around me, that if adversity strikes, if this thing gets hard or heavy, I know I've got some people around me that are like, hey, just because we're in a pit, and just because we are facing a lion, and just because it started snowing, doesn't mean we're bailing. Those are the kind of people I want around. Write down number 4, our kind of guys. Love this thought. Remember, it says David's mighty men. These are David's. Leadership is about learning how to keep your hand open. No one is mine. fact, the leader that holds on to people and things like this, they usually end up losing it. But you got to hold on to resources and people like this and understand no one's mine. And yet leadership is attention. So no one is mine, and yet this is who God has assigned. This is who's with me. So it says these are David's mighty men. These were his guys. And I think great leaders know how to choose our kind of guys. This is like culture, climate, chemistry, character. These are our kind of guys. One of my favorite coaches, I'll give you two of my favorite coaches, Coach K at Duke and Mark Few at Gonzaga. They only recruit our kind of guys. They're going to fit in our locker room. They're going to fit in our culture. Being a leader, so much of it is understanding this person could totally fit. It's going to be one of our kind of guys. And this person, I don't know if they can get a heart transplant and become one of us. I've got to learn. Is this going to be one of my mighty men, or is this going to be someone that maybe is not best for our staff or for our team? Fill in the blank. But the kind of leader I want around me, it's like that's totally going to be one of our guys. Last thing, write down number 5, pure intentions. This is so important for every leader. Now, again, I'm referencing David here. Watch what he says. Oh, I would give anything for a drink from that well. Again, it's not manipulative. He's not passive aggressive. He's not going like, I need guys to prove their loyalty to me. No, just out of loyalty, they go get him the drink. They bring it back. Watch what he does. He takes the drink and he pours it out and he goes, how dare I take this drink? In other words, David, his motives were pure, so pure that he saw it as an opportunity not to get a drink, but to prove his loyalty to them. Most leaders want loyalty. Few leaders give loyalty. Everybody wants to be honored, but David saw it as an opportunity to give honor. And you got to know that if you want to have the right leaders around you, you got to have pure intentions, pure motives, always checking our motives to make sure I'm not here just for my gain, my success, my name. If you're that, you drink the water. If not, you pour it out and say, you know what? This is not about me right now. This is about us. And just the way that you've come to serve me, I want to serve you. I see this as an opportunity to prove my loyalty, not as an opportunity for me to flex and show how much power that I have. The kind of leaders that you want around you are the kind of leaders that have pure motives and that are so excited about being on the team. Top 5. All right, we're coming back here. Leadership Lean In with my new friend right here. This is too fun, man. Thank you so much for being on. I want to jump into time management.
Yes.
I think that's one of the most important things for any leader's life.
Yeah.
Is how do you, I heard someone say your no is way more important than your yes.
It's true.
And if your yes becomes too common, a lot of your value starts to diminish. So you would strike me as someone that is very good with time management. Mm-hmm. When I say that, what jumps out at you when you start going, I manage my time and here's what I think about my schedule and meetings. What would you say?
Yeah, I would say that, the time management requires, discipline. And for me, it also requires, listening. Because it's like not everything is priority. And so for me, just in terms of how I start the day, most of the time I'm starting the day, in prayer. I read scripture. I will usually do some affirmations, and then I'll usually, get up and go to the gym and then get to the office. But every day's different because I'll have some meetings on projects.
Sure.
I'll have, interviews to do.
But if you could choose your schedule, you would go, let's say, devotion, scripture time.
Yes.
God time.
Yes.
Gym. And then we're ready to go.
And then right into the
So you already did spiritual, physical.
Yes.
Before you really engage
without
the world.
a doubt, because that it clears my mind.
Wow.
And it gets me focused for the day. There are some days where I'm always doing the spiritual part, but there's some days I don't get a chance to go work out in the morning.
Right.
And I feel it. So whenever I can do that, I do that. But for me, time management is really about priorities. It's really about priority placement because sometimes we have a to-do list. And if we just go through the to-do list, we may do things that just aren't important, but we feel like, oh, I got it off my list. Well, that's something you could have done next month.
Right.
Let's prioritize. So for me, I really try to listen to God. Like, okay, what are the priorities right now? And then when I boil that down, okay, just in a pragmatic sense, okay, what do I have to do right now to keep the lights on?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This project keeps the lights on.
Right.
This book. Okay. So then it's like, got it.
Right.
So I literally reorient my life around the things that matter the most.
That's so great.
Period. And anything that doesn't matter, it doesn't mean I don't do it. I just don't rush to do it. And a lot of times people want my time. I'm like, you know what? I'd love to give it to you. I can't meet until next month.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Wow.
I cannot do it.
Yep.
Why? Because God is telling me this is what I need to do to be obedient to him right now.
Right.
If I am designed to help you, either you'll wait a month or God's going to send somebody else to help you.
Yeah.
Right? Because what happens, seriously.
That's so good.
Seriously, because I can't.
If I can't, God will send somebody.
He will.
Yeah, that's great.
I can't bear the burden of like, oh my goodness, if I don't help everybody, it's all on me. Well, no, God is God. I'm not God.
Yeah.
So time management to me is really about priority placement. And I try to do a good job of that and maintaining a sense of what matters the most. And that really works for me. It really works. Like, okay, this doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Not that this particular person doesn't matter.
No,
the person matters,
course,
but like,
of course.
What they want from me, I don't need to do right now.
Yeah.
This project, this project, I don't feel God's grace on this.
Sure.
So I'm going to continue to be in it, but I'm not going to be in it the way I feel God's grace on this project.
Yeah. Well, at your level, and I think every leader, every opportunity is a good opportunity.
Yes.
And that's where it starts to get difficult.
Yes.
This is a good opportunity.
Yes.
And then what would be the next level? We could use the word great or God, either one.
Yep.
But it really is discerning, going like, no, this is good. I'm not saying it's not.
Yeah.
It's just probably not.
Yeah. And so much of it, and I'm getting better with it,
Sure.
over time, like, okay, well, yeah, you say yes to everything. But the point you brought up even in the question is like, when you say yes, man, it's like our yes is so important because every time we say yes, we have to look at that as an energy allocation. Do I have the energy? It's almost like writing a check.
Yeah. Great.
If I'm writing this check, do I know it's going to clear? When I say yes, do I actually have the energy to cover this yes? And if I know I don't, I can't say yes to it.
Wow.
No matter, it may be someone in the family. I love you.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
Right.
I can't do it. So much of
Wow.
it, me learning over the process is like, okay, you know what? I've been saying yes too much. I've got to cut back. I've got to say no some more. Because no, it just helps clarify what I'm really supposed to be doing.
Yep.
Instead of saying yes to everything and being busy, you can be busy, but not productive.
That's it.
And so, I was reading I think it was in Business Insider, Warren Buffett. They were saying on his schedule, like he'll do a couple meetings or whatever, but a lot of his days are just free. And they were asking the question, why? He said, because he likes to go think. He has time in his schedule so he can go think. He said, because that's how he makes money, when he's able to think. I said, my goodness.
Right.
I said, I got to try this.
Right.
My schedule is just a
gonna
little
start
too
thinking
full.
for a change.
Right. That's right.
Wow.
But it's just important to, and also not beat yourself up. I mean, with time management, we all, say, I wish I could have done this, didn't do it.
Yeah,
all right, give yourself grace.
But I very rarely conclude, man, I wish I was out doing more.
Right. It was almost like I wish I was doing less.
That's it. How do you get good at time management? It's never like, golly, I need like 3 more meetings in my week. It's never that.
It's never that.
It's always, I've got too much on here.
Yep.
And now I'm writing checks
that I cannot cash.
I can't.
And if I do, then I'm going into my reserves.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm cutting into my savings.
And as soon as I start doing that, if I'm in my reserves, all of a sudden, it's not only that I get affected, everyone in my world.
Absolutely. Because you're especially as a leader, they're getting the leftovers.
That's it.
They're getting like, not fully engaged, almost burnt out.
Right.
Not really clear of thought, sometimes irritable.
Yeah.
And that's comes from, not taking the time to say, wait, I got to say no to some of this stuff. I got to pull back so I can stay refreshed and restored.
And the fact that you've had as a discipline, a Sabbath.
Yeah, that helps a lot, man.
Oh man.
A lot.
That is huge.
Dude. And that organically.
Yeah.
I had no idea. Because growing up, the Sabbath was a spiritual or religious practice.
Right.
It wasn't to me a health practice.
Right.
Until I got, into the industry and I said, oh, this is amazing.
Yeah.
So from Friday night sundown to Saturday night sundown, I turn off my emails.
Wow.
I do very little text messages. I don't check anything that's going on in the world.
Just that alone.
I don't check social media for 24 hours. And it allows me to plug into God, plug into my family, hang out, go to church. It just allows me a day to refresh.
That's
where
unbelievable.
I'm not just 24/7.
Most leaders do not have a Sabbath day. And if we want to talk about Hollywood commandments, or let's just go holy commandments, I've always looked at the Sabbath is so interesting. It's the only one that most leaders would go, I think he was suggesting that one. Murder for sure is a commandment.
For sure. But remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy?
It's a but he knows I'm working for him, right? It's like, no, you're going to get to a place. I watched them all. I'm a pastor's kid. My dad's a pastor. I'm growing up, around my dad talking about serotonin level and testosterone and your adrenal gland and blah, blah, blah. Why? Because so many people burn out.
Yes.
And most leaders are the starving baker. Most leaders are working 24/7. Most leaders are justifying it because
it's the work of the Lord.
It's the work of okay, so you're so big, God can't step in for a day? That's just bad leadership.
And what's amazing to me, relative to that, go back to Genesis.
Yeah.
God rested. Now, it's like, okay, wait, if God is putting in place the need for rest.
Right.
And then Jesus, when he walks the earth,
he's doing it.
It's like, listen, I know there's, so much debate about, Sabbath, Sunday, whatever. Okay, we're going to put that to the side.
Yeah.
We're not even touch that because it's a long conversation. However, the value
just choose a day
of rest is critical.
Yeah, it's huge.
It is critical.
Yeah.
And to the point you're bringing up, I think that when we don't do it, I don't think we ever get we fully can manage our time.
Right.
Because we weren't built to run 24/7.
No,
it's not
because you get unhealthy. And I want to talk about that.
Yeah.
You strike me as someone that's into health. You're working out. I see working out.
Yeah.
And when you're putting out as much as you're giving.
Yes.
How do you? I don't like the word balance as much.
Me either.
Sometimes people will ask leaders, how do you stay balanced? I don't know a lot of balanced leaders, but I look at leaders like yourself that are healthy and I go, how did you crack that code?
Yeah.
Like, how did you find a recipe for health?
Yeah. Because in my early 20s, I was not taking care of myself and had a really, bad health situation and had to have surgery and all this, and so coming out of that, I was like, and then also my father dying at 36. I was like, man, I better get it together.
Sure.
And so that just began a process for me to include like, okay, I've got to work out. Even in one of the things that helps me tremendously is that, and I've developed this over years, but I got to the point now where I travel with a whole suitcase. So I've been on the road promoting the book and my movie Breakthrough. And I have a whole suitcase with my supplements. I travel with my protein so that even if I'm at home or on the road, I start the day the same way. So what happens is my body is like, oh, okay, we're set. We're good. Like there's a level set. We know how the day starts. So no matter what I'm hitting during the day, I have a foundation of health that helps me, be successful. And then also, I've just seen so many people of faith.
Right.
The body is the temple of the living God.
Right.
But I just see so many people of faith growing. I grew up in the church.
Sure.
I love the church.
You're around it.
I'm around it. But sometimes when it comes to the temple, it's like, oh well, we'll just pray the calories away.
That one doesn't matter as much.
But it's like, no. How can the spirit be strong if the temple's crumbling?
Wow.
Wow. And and that's one of I have a whole nother book that I'm gonna be working on relative to that.
Great.
But for me, fitness is a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And so, I box, I do Rumble boxing, right
Let's
here.
Go, Rumble.
Come on, man.
Let's go, Andy. That's my guy.
Is that right?
I love Andy so much.
Man. Dope, man. I go to Rumble, man.
Yeah.
Multiple times a week.
Rumble's awesome.
I do Matrix with Don Matrix right here on Fairfax and Melrose.
Yeah. Shout out to Prevail Boxing as well. Shout out to Milan. That's my guy down at Prevail, 3rd Street. Shout out to Milan. I'll shout out Andy. Rumble. My loyalties to Milan. Anyways, keep going.
I love it. And so I think it's just important when it comes to health is to incorporate it, and that's what I do. I'll go sometimes, in the morning I'll go. Sometimes if I feel like it, I'll go later in the day.
Yeah.
I just incorporate it. I just make it a part of the lifestyle. Because then also, here's the other thing. I want to look like what I talk about.
Mm.
Before I open my mouth, I
Yep.
walk into a room.
Wow.
I want someone to say, he's serious.
Yeah, that's it. You're working from an advantage.
Absolutely.
You absolutely are.
Absolutely. I can't
Yeah.
sit up here and talk about the value of God,
Yeah.
the value of faith, and living a great lifestyle if I personally want to be the billboard.
Wow.
So when someone's seeing, they go like, oh man, okay. And
Wow.
and the
No,
crazy-
you're working from an advantage.
Yes, man, dude, it's crazy. I mean, I would have never thought,
Yeah.
truthfully, that having that mindset, the impact that it has on other people, because, I walk into situations, people are like, oh man, are you going to be acting in this? I'm like, no, I'm the producer.
That is so awesome.
But it's important because, I think when we are healthy,
Yeah.
when our body feels good, it helps us to feel good.
It's amazing.
It really, really does.
So awesome. Well, we're out of time for today, but I want to say thank you. Thank you for
Thank you,
the we talked about these three, but bigger than that, the life that you're living
Oh, thank you.
and the time management and the health that you're putting into yourself so you could give something to this world. We are better because of you.
Oh,
The
man.
church is better.
Appreciate
The
that.
world is better.
Thank
The
you.
city is better. And I believe every leader that listened to you today is better. So thank you so much.
Oh, my brother.
Come on, man.
Anytime.
Just the
Thank you.
beginning.
Yeah.
Leadership Lean In. We'll be back next time.